What I'm going to start with is sharing what we call spec sheets. If you look on our website, they're actually called cut sheet diagrams. We're just turning that into something with a little bit more information on there that we believe is going to be a little bit more usable, not only internally, but externally. So this would be something that we will upload to the site down the road, but we wanted to look at it a little bit different way. So if you go on our website right now, you'll find this diagram on the top. And then we're kind of putting what we would normally have as a call out for ourselves or something that we would quote unquote upgrade to. It doesn't mean that these are the only things that we can source or offer. This is just more of our in-house preference. So if you go on our website right now, you would see these diagrams. We have them for all of the different types of signage that we make. We're sticking to front lit stuff. So everything that I will cover today is just components of front lit. Obviously, a lot of these components go into other types of signage as well, but we're just starting slow and then we'll kind of go from there. So on here, let's just start with the actual diagram itself. You have the aluminum return, which is just pointing to the sidewall. I have samples of all that and we'll go spec by spec after I kind of go through the top here. ACM backs is just one type of back that we offer. We also offer an 063 back. We can do an 090 back as well, but that is extremely uncommon. I will get into that a little bit more too. Trim cap is the part that attaches to the actual acrylic face. Just gives it something for a screw to go into and hold it to the actual can. Our standard is 3/16 acrylic face. We also do sign grade acrylic faces as well. The electrical pass-through is just for the wire to go through. Clinched and caulk seams, I showed that last week, but that's where the flange on the back of the letter gets a rivet through the bottom, and that just holds it to the back. I have an example of the flange that I'll show as well. Obviously, LED illumination, that's what we use for everything. And then drain holes, that's just so that water can escape and it's UL compliant. UL is the governing body for electrical across the United States. So if you have a lamp that you look at, anything that would have electrical will have a UL label of some sort. We just have a UL number that is associated with that. I don't even remember our number. It's like UL 56 or something along those lines. But UL actually comes monthly to inspect our stuff. The LED lead wire, the whip, this is where it can get a little confusing. That is just the electrical pass-through that comes from the actual LED. So it is the same wire. We call it a whip. You can call it a lead wire. There's a handful of different names that you can use for that. The most common is whip or a lead. And something to keep in mind here, sales guys, you're probably seeing this. I know Osama and Alex run into this. Whip lengths are really important because we don't know the wall that they're installing to. So if they need to run that wire 20 feet back into the wall to get to the power source, we need to be very cognizant of that on the front end because our standard internally is only a 3-foot lead. So that definitely needs to be a question whenever we're going through that part of the order phase. This is just the side view. So when I was going through art last week, when I was motor mouthing through the artwork last week, you may or may not have heard me say over and over again that I tend to gravitate towards the side view. The reason for that, we build 3-dimensional things. The face will really only give you what the pretty part of it is. So essentially I can figure out acrylic and vinyl. That would be great if we only did acrylic and vinyl. However, we do about 9 to 15 more components depending on the sign. So that's why I prefer the side view. This is actually a raceway behind the wall. That's called a remote raceway. So it just means we provided a raceway. It could be showing a power supply box. I would have to ask Dylan what he was portraying there, but it looks like a remote raceway to me. It just means it's on the other side of the wall. That's where they're running all of their leads to, and then it goes into that. It's not actually mounted on it. So we'll start with acrylic, and then we'll kind of go through these. I'm not sure that I'll get all the way through them, but these are all the different components that would go into front lit signage. So acrylic, our in-house is 3/16 acrylic. Just so everyone is aware, the most common for a long period of time is 1/8" acrylic. So we prefer a little bit thicker acrylic. It is a better overall product. You won't have as many face breaks. A lot of pricing, this is more of a sales tip, but a lot of pricing concerns when people are like, well, your price is high. You need to make sure that they're matching up item to item on what we are quoting them. It is very common for other people to quote an 1/8" acrylic. It is obviously cheaper, it's thinner. So if they're offering $200 less, but they're using a less sturdy component, that is probably the reason that we are more expensive on that. So it's just a good value offer that we can have. There are a lot of different colors of acrylic. These are all the different colors of acrylic that we can source. Now, when I say I can source something, it's like I can go and find it. There is no idea how long the turn time is going to take on that. So our standard turn time, when somebody asks what's your turnaround time, is for things that we keep in-house. If we don't keep it in-house, I can't guarantee that, because I'm having to wait on a vendor to get that to me. So we have all these different colors. As you see, I mean, just look at the whites alone. There's a lot of different whites. There's a lot of different orange and red substrates. And then you start getting into some of these are, I'll show you an example, but they're a little bit more of a different offering to a perforated vinyl, to where it would show black during the day and white up light at night. However, I actually hate those products. They show more gray at night than actual white. So if people ever offer to do what we call a day-night acrylic, which is this guy, I typically steer them away from that and try to go to a perforated vinyl. Just a better overall product. It achieves the aesthetic they're looking for. We can print perforated vinyls, so you can get them in any color, as long as you can find it in a Pantone book or a YMCK color. We can do all of those. So it's very easy to match those, not difficult at all. The best way to actually understand acrylic, I Googled this morning. I did not know this until today. I have an iPhone, but anyone with a smartphone, you have typically anywhere from a 5,000 Kelvin to 8,000 Kelvin for your flashlight. So we actually test a lot of ours with our flashlights on our phone, because it's the easiest way to see how an LED module is going to hit it. So if you ever want to test, that is a really good way to go about it. We can send samples to y'all or whatever you need as well, just so that you can kind of test them out. This is the actual brand that we use, and these are more colors that we would keep in stock. We don't keep all of these. We only keep about 5 colors in stock. We keep a lot of different thicknesses, and we'll get into that when we get into trimless and a lot of the push through.
Can you talk very quickly about a 1/8 versus a 3/16?
Yeah.
As far as thickness. And then also, can you show us your flashlight behind the acrylic and show us that example?
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through colors now. We have these on our website as well, but it'll tell you off of the color of red, yellow, whatever it is, if it needs a diffuser or not. A diffuser is basically, just think of it as a, does everybody know what butcher paper is? So it's like a thin piece of paper. It's basically the equivalent of what a butcher paper looks like. You lay it on the inside surface. So let's say this would be the outside surface of the acrylic. You lay it on the inside surface. It does exactly what the name says. It just helps light diffuse. So the problem is when you get into some of these, this one is 2406. There's really 3 standard whites that we use. There's a 2406. If you look at it, I mean, you can see pretty much right through it. It's not very thick. It's very translucent. If I hold a light up to it, sorry, nuking everybody. You can basically see where the LED hits right through it, where if you go on this one, it's going to diffuse it a lot more. Like if I put it right up to it, it's going to dull it down, where that one is very bright. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see on here. I can get a better example. It just may be better for me to take a video out on the floor. 7328, I mean, you can see it on here. They call it a milky white. It is very thick. You can't see my finger through it, where this one you can see right through the thing. This is probably our second most common white color. The only reason that this is not my go-to white color, when you lay vinyl on it, because it diffuses so well, it actually looks like you underlight it. And that's just, we tend to have to overpopulate LEDs when we use the 7328 with any color on it. So this looks great as a standalone white product. It doesn't look as good when you add color to it, because it actually changes the color a little bit. Our in-house preference is 2447. If you kind of see my fingers through it, it's kind of a mix between these two. That's why we like it the most. I can light it up like crazy. It does great with colors on it. There's a lot of benefit to using this product. That's why we use it as our standard on everything else. If somebody offers, or if somebody wants a 7328 or a 2406, we do carry those. It's just something that they need to understand the pros and cons of them. So for a 2406, the way that this is spec'd from the manufacturer is actually to always lay a diffuser on the inside surface.
And so explain, because you would actually see the LED modules.
You'll see the
being
modules
lit
straight
up.
through it.
It's as if you're looking straight through the acrylic and you're seeing the LED in the can. And
Right.
that would not be a preferred look for signage when it's on a wall.
Yeah, where I love this 2406 material is 1/2 inch, because it lets a lot of light through and it doesn't cut the light down on a very thick material. It looks great in a 1/2 inch. It looks, in my opinion, like garbage on a short letter, especially if you get into a 3-inch letter. You can see all over it. It just does not look good at all. So our standard, the best
3 inches deep.
3 inches deep. Yes, sorry.
Yes. Okay.
So our standard for everything is 2447. That's kind of our go-to. For reds, I would have to look on the website. I don't remember off the top of my head, but we have 3 red colors. The 2157 doesn't get used a ton. We do offer it, just doesn't get used a lot. The most common is 2283 and 2793. I believe 2283 we put a diffuser on as well, because again, it's fairly see-through. And red is gnarly when you have, so you always do red with red LED. If you do red with white LED, it will become pink and it will not look good. You can also see all the LEDs straight through it. So we always do red LED behind red acrylics. For the most part, that is the best setup. I've also seen people put amber or orange behind red. That actually looks really good as well. It gives it a very, very deep, almost like burgundy color to it. So you can do a lot of things with different color swap outs and things that make the color slightly different. The one that we use a lot of is 2793. Again, it's a little bit thicker. So if I was to compare it to a white, it would be more like the 7328, the milky white. This just diffuses the red a lot better. As you can see, it's not very see-through. So you can't really see my fingers through it. It's pretty thick. It's just the way they cast it. It's a really true red. Whenever you do colors like these, it is very uncommon to put any sort of vinyl or anything like that. The acrylic is doing the job of the vinyl. At times, if vinyl can be picky, because people pick vinyl off what it looks like with no light, and then when you light it up, it changes. So like I've seen a lot of people pick a color of vinyl. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's one of the 3 ranges, because reds are always ending in 3. But it actually looks red when you put it on the letter when it's not lit. When you light it up, it looks slightly orange. So it doesn't come across looking as solid. That's where if someone's really just looking for a red, in the United States, a lot of liquor stores, a lot of nail salons, we usually push them towards a red acrylic. It's the best way to go. Oranges are more project specific. We don't use them a ton, and we don't really carry any blues. I don't even know a lot about blues, to be totally honest with you. This color is literally made for one job, and it's Subway. It is called Subway Yellow. They opened so many sandwich shops that they got a lot of material named after them. It's pretty impressive. This one is orange. We've used this really only on 1 or 2 different projects. You can also put red behind orange, and it actually lights up fairly red. It's kind of cool. Gives it a very deep red color. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with different acrylic colors. Is that kind of a good enough overview on that, just to kind of hit? So for the most part, we're probably 80-20 whites to colors. So we do a lot of whites. And then out of our whites, we're probably 80-20, 2447 to the other 2 white colors. 7328 probably takes up the other 19%. And then 2406 is really just used on spec callouts.
So 2 things just to clarify. When a customer sends in an initial like, hey, can you quote me on this? I want white faces. We are not even going to really have that discussion. We're just going to quote it with 2447 unless they spec very specifically. And then can you just talk very quickly, maybe hold up the thickness? Yeah, it's hard to see, Blake. It's
I know.
a different way. Can you also just talk very quickly about the 3/16 thickness on the acrylic, just to show us? And like, is that double thick what a 1/8 would be, or is it 2 times
3/16 is just a little thicker. Really just easier to break. For us, where it really doesn't make sense is shipping. But there's 1/8 inch versus 3/16. Little hard to see, but
Yeah, but no, it does translate. You can definitely see that. So
yeah.
that would be a huge selling point, you guys, is if we're automatically upgrading, or what we consider to be our in-house standard is 3/16, let people know, right? Like on the quote that they're telling you, like, hey, your competition's cheaper. It's like, well, wait a second, let's really look at this apples to apples. If they're bidding you 1/8 inch acrylic and I'm bidding you 3/16, so it does beg the question, Blake, do we provide the option for 1/8 inch acrylic?
No, we used to. Frankly, it's hard for a couple reasons. A, it is not kind to us in shipping. And because we ship so much, we would have so many face breaks. It would be brutal. We would end up remaking the same job like 4 times.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good way to go. So we tend to just stick to 3/16. It's also better for us, just so everyone's on the same page. From an ordering perspective, we want to order as little variety as possible because it gives us better buying power on what we do order. So if I can order, the reason we skew so hard to one color of white versus a 35 split of all of it would be you lose your buying power on that specific SKU. So we want better buying power. It helps us pass along a cheaper price. The other thing with 1/8 inch, I would have to find a cutoff for it, but I would say once you get over 24-inch letters, unless it's like a block font, the chances of that breaking, I would think, are very, very, very high. It's just not strong enough. So I've actually had a quote when I was back in sales. It was probably 2020, maybe 2021. My competition actually quoted 1/8 inch letters or 1/8 inch acrylic on 48-inch letters. And our customer ended up going with that route. And then we ended up remaking the job like a month later because they tried to ship it and put it up on the wall. This was going in like West Texas. So super windy. It couldn't even hold up to the wind alone. So that's where it's just not a great quality product for what we do. If we made a bunch of really small letters, might be a little bit more in the game. If we FedEx shipped everything, might be a little bit more in the game. But with us doing everything in freight, it gets banged around. It's not super easy on the material. So we need something a little sturdy. The only thing I didn't hit, and thank you, Dylan, for reminding me. Feel free to text me if I missed anything else. Sign grade. We do upgrade to sign grade acrylic. Sign grade acrylic is just cast different. It's a little stronger than your standard acrylic. That's why when we go to certain sizes, so like you get into certain logo sizes, you do, I don't remember the exact cutoff, but if you go like, let's say a 40-inch logo, you want sign grade on that. It's just going to be a little bit better overall. The one caveat to that, typically when you do sign grade, you want to upgrade all the letters to sign grade. The reason for that is your acrylic colors can be different. So if I have sign grade 2447 and then I have standard 2447, those are cast 2 different ways and they're made in 2 different batches. So even if I get 2447 from last month and this month, they can come across slightly different, especially when they're not lit. So when they light up, they're going to look similar. When they're not lit, they can look absolutely a mess.
Is sign grade the same as impact mod?
I believe so. I think the name's interchangeable. John would have to chime in on that one.
100%. Sign grade SG and impact modified is identical.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions around acrylics?
Is sign grade and impact, is that 1/2 inch? Or, I mean, what's the depth
Thickness?
of that? Thickness.
3/16. It's just cast different.
Okay.
They have a different casting process to it. It's a little bit stronger. It's really the only difference.
Thank you.
And what do you mean by cast? Just how it's formed?
It's their process of how they form the acrylic. And I need to go see how they manufacture it. I've never been to an acrylic manufacturer, but they just have a different casting method.
I think on acrylic, just because of trimless. So we use 3/16 for all front lit jobs. We use on trimless 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. Impact modified is 3/16 only. So understand that only on trimless do we use different thicknesses of acrylic, not on letters. I know that has come up in the estimating questions, and even like Al and Thomas, I know y'all kind of asked those questions. So just really know that if it's a front lit channel letter set with trim, it is 3/16. If it is trimless, that's a different animal. We can do that a few different ways. So we'll have to just really read the cut sheets on that so it's very clear.
When we get into trimless, we will revisit acrylics more in depth. There is way more information that I can throw at you on that. I think that's why I'm like making sure I'm hitting all this, because I kind of forget some of the stuff on standard acrylic, because this is our bread and butter and we use it all the time. We'll get into way more depth with that. I'll have Dylan probably add some layers to that as well, because that is an ocean of information that you can get into just on different types of acrylic and frankly mounting styles and stuff like that. It kind of covers that topic. We'll look at vinyls. Actually, one quick side note, estimators, salespeople, if you ever get an estimate for day-night acrylic, please contact John. We do not want to make this. I don't like carrying this. I do not think it is a good overall product. So if you ever see something that is day-night acrylic, we do not want to quote that. It does not look good. It does not turn out right. It's something we used to carry and I no longer carry. So we also have to source it. So the turn time would be slower. I'm not opposed to using it if it is a massive program and I don't have a say over it. So I want you guys to understand, like, I'm not putting my foot down totally on it, but in general, in-house, we would rather do a perforated vinyl.
Perforated vinyl, and if it's a color and they want to grade, make it a digital print perforated vinyl. Good call, Blake.
Next is vinyl, and this gets, everyone's got to bear with me on this one. It's a lot of information, and there's a lot of different ways we can go with it. There's also a lot of different companies. We just happen to use one of them. And then I'll hit digital prints a little bit as well. So this is our 3M book.
And 3M is the manufacturer.
Yep, 3M is the manufacturer. It's just our in-house brand that we prefer to use. They offer a great warranty. They're a very well-known company inside of car wraps, any sort of digital field. They are very well-known and very well-regarded. We use those for anything that would be a standard color. Here's what's hard. If you open up one of these books, I just showed you guys about 70 colors. I don't carry 70 colors. And of course, the ones that they put in here, they typically send us a new one every year. I'll get a little bit closer and show you more in depth, but next to some of them, they put new. The new ones, for some reason, they put them in the book and then they never manufacture them. So everyone that is an end user wants to get the new thing because it says new, and we're human beings and we're all like, ooh, it's new. And then we can never order it. So if somebody's calling you guys and asking for a color, you need to ask if it is, does it say new next to it in the 3M book? Because for some reason, 3M likes to dangle that carrot and then decide that they should make that like 2 years later. So if I ever get to talk to somebody at 3M, I'll ask them why, and then I'll share my feedback. But for now, that's kind of what they choose to do. The cool thing about how 3M does their colors, I don't know if every vinyl company does their colors. The other ones you'll hear about is Arlon, Oracal. Those are kind of the main ones that I would say we get the most requests for. They're just a different brand. So they're offering a very similar thing. It's just a different brand. The naming protocol that they use is actually really cool. So all the colors end in the same number, which keeps it really easy to organize. So if someone's on the phone with you and says, oh, it's 43, every 3 is going to be red. Every 7 is going to be blue. Those are probably the most common ones that we move. We move a lot of 22 black. We do a lot of perforated black, and then we do a lot of reds. 33 red is the most popular red that we have. The blues, there's a little bit more variety. You have 157 blue. Sometimes you get 337 blue. That's more program specific. 127 blue. So like your intense blues, your bright blues. I've even had Bristol blue on a few of them, European blues, and then those kind of get used interchangeably. So blue is probably the widest variety that I see. Yellow is usually 15 yellow. Sometimes they will go with 125 yellow. For the most part, it kind of stays there. Oranges, they all end in 4s. It's usually only 2 of them that they use, tangerine and kumquat. I think people just like to say kumquat. So I think that's the only reason they actually order that one, because it's actually kind of a atrocious color, to be honest with you. That's kind of the standards. We will throw some greens on stuff every once in a while. But for the most part, if you guys are seeing colors that aren't red, yellow, or blue, they're probably looking for something more specific to a color match, which would be a digital print. So anything that's a direct color match, like if somebody grabs a Pantone book and they're like, I want this color purple, we are most likely printing that. There's not going to be a direct match. Now, we can, and I will at times, take this, run it next to all the color swatches in the 3M book and see if we can come up with a match. But for the most part, we're going to print it. Just for everyone on this call, our digital print place that we outsource to is in our parking lot. So they're like 4 stores down. We literally walk down, grab a bundle of them, and walk them back. So they're very close. Our typical turn time on a digital print obviously depends on the time of the day, but we usually get it the following day whenever we place the order. Sometimes it'll be 2 days. It really just depends on the complexity of the print. We can get into printing down the road. Again, that's kind of like acrylic depths when you start getting into trimless. That's an ocean of information. But for the most part, that's what we lay. We apply via a roller table. And I want to show you guys what those are and what they do. That way you're on the same page. All right, so these are application tables over in vinyl. We have 3 of them. And then I know this is going to sound crazy. That looks like a lot of color rolls on the vinyl rack back there. I think we only carry about half of the 3M book. So yes, if you also scratch your head when your customer is like, well, I wanted one of the 80 that you don't carry, we find that equally as confusing because we pretty much cover every color of the rainbow back there. There's a couple different ways that you can apply vinyl. You can apply it by hand. What you do is you basically take a squirt bottle, put a little bit of soap in it, and then you just wet the surface like crazy. Like you go to town.
Water. It's soapy water.
Soapy water, yeah.
Yeah.
And you just go to town, get it as wet as you possibly can. Then you lay whatever block of vinyl on top of that, and then you squeegee it on to get the water bubbles and the air bubbles out. That's one style. That's called wet application or a wet drop. This is called a dry application. So if you watch Judy there, she took this little rag and she wiped it off. All she's doing is getting dust off. One of the challenges of Colorado, it is extremely dry here. So if you notice, she's going to wipe this off, and then the next thing she's going to do is roll that sucker over. And the reason is, if you don't, you're going to have dust on it in about 30 seconds. So she's just making a pass on that.
What is she applying the vinyl onto?
That's the acrylic.
Okay.
Sorry. So this is called a per artwork drop. If we actually look, you can see the border of the letters in the outline. So we have to line that up perfectly and then roll it all out. Once it's laid, this little X-Acto blade right there, you take around the edge and you trim out the letter. So that is how we end up applying. Most places you will talk to will not have one of these application tables. This is just an air pressure controlled nozzle. So you can press it down, it'll apply the pressure to it, and it'll roll it out so you get this really smooth application. It's not perfect, but it allows us to apply things very fast at a high volume. So that's why we use these. And we have 3 of those. The white stuff you see on the end is masking. If it goes into paint, we have to mask it. So we'll lay the vinyl under it, and then we'll go right over the top of it with masking. And then we'll wrap it with trim cap, paint the trim cap, and then we'll peel the masking at the end. So you take a blade around the edge and just peel it off. I think what Anna is doing right there. Yeah, so she's just cleaning up the edges of something she just laid. So she's just going around with an X-Acto blade and making sure it's all clean. That actually looks like a push through. Yeah, looks like a push through on that one. So it's a bit of a tedious process, but the tables do help us speed it up a little bit. when it comes to vinyls, really the important part again is more the aesthetic. So that's what you got to think of. They're aiming for an end goal. In my experience, if I could put myself back in sales, well, I guess I am right now, but I would ask them what their end goal is for what they want it to look like when it's not lit and what they want it to look like when it is lit. Those are two very different things because they will change. So if they want it to look like a lighter red when it's lit, but they don't want it to look orange when it's not lit, it's going to narrow the options of what we would choose for a vinyl. Or more often than not, they may be looking for something so particular, we're just going to go to a digital print at that point. And then I'll show you guys a couple examples. So this is actually acrylic. I meant to show this with the acrylic portion. See how it's glossy? You guys can see the reflection in it. This is a yellow acrylic. This is that Subway yellow. The backside, see how it's like, it looks like there's film on it? That's diffuser. So this always gets diffuser. It just helps it light up well. That's kind of what that looks like. The diffuser, we actually lay by letter in the vinyl department. So you just flip it upside down, apply the diffuser across the back. So it is still,
like it's almost like a masking that stays in place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you can tell it changes the color, but not to some like crazy degree. So when people are like, oh my gosh, why didn't you put diffuser on it? That would have helped it a bunch. It's like, dude, I mean, it's going to like, if your halo around the LED was that big, it's going to make it that big. Like it is not some life-saving material like some people think it is. So more often than not, they just need to choose a different acrylic. If you're looking at standard, again, it's got kind of a hazy reflection to it. So it's more of a matte finish. That's what a standard vinyl is. So I believe this is Kelly green. I could be wrong, but this is for extra space storage. We've made a lot of this recently. It just has more of a matte finish to it. So if you look at it from a distance, you can tell pretty quickly that it's standard vinyl.
And show us the back of that one that does not have masking on it.
So it's just white.
Or diffuser. Yes. Okay.
Yep. So that's just a white acrylic. That's 2447 white. So you have green on the front and it looks fairly green. That just helps it diffuse and light well. And then same thing on this one. This is the back of a digital print. So again, it's 2447. And then the digital print, see how it's a lot glossier. So if you're from a distance, you're going to get a lot more just light bounce off of it. It looks good. It's just because it's laminated. We don't have a laminate on our actual in-house 3M. There are certain specs that call for laminated 3M, and we will laminate it. It's not uber common though.
And explain what is a laminate. Explain the process of lamination. What is that?
It's a film. It would be better for me really to take a video of it. So I'll go down to Rocky Mountain at some point this week. I'll get a video and then I can share it. That's something it's definitely easier to see than for me to explain because I'm going to totally botch that. And it'll be a lot easier to see in a video. So I'll just go take a video of it. That way everyone's on the same page. So that's kind of the different styles. Right now, I would say we're probably, in stuff that we apply, we're probably close to 50-50 on digital print and vinyl. So digital print serves a purpose. Again, you could lay this in two different, we call them drops. So what you would do if you laid this in two drops, you would lay the red under the whole thing, and then you would lay the yellow that's been weeded and masked over the top of it. It just, they're looking for a gradient. So they wanted this to be a nice orange color over here, and then they wanted it to be a nice yellow color over here. Again, it's kind of picky, but that's just what people do. I did see a request yesterday. This was actually my customer. I was very confused. She wanted a gradient paint. I don't know if anyone's ever painted before, but painting one color is hard enough. You can't do a gradient in paint. So she basically wanted a gradient paint on a raceway. What we're gonna do is just do a digital print on the face of the raceway. It will achieve the same look, but like there is no, if I took that to my paint guys, they would literally run out of the building. Like they would be terrified. So Hobby would just be like in the corner, just shaking. So no, we do not offer a gradient paint. If anyone asks you that, that is kind of crazy to me, but that it's no bueno. We can also do matte finishes. Thank you again, Dylan. You're like Steve Nash over in the other corner. Um, so we can do matte finishes as well. Obviously, it's just opaque. So you have opaque and translucent. Most people are going to ask for translucent because, again, it's kind of weird to put lights in something that is going into an opaque surface. Opaque just means it's not going to let light through. A lot of opaque is done for detail. So the opaques that we see a lot are white opaque and are black opaque. And it's really what you do on that is you lay it. I should have grabbed a sample. That was one thing that didn't cross my mind this morning. Let's say the back of this was the white acrylic, not the red. We might put a white opaque for the letters. That way at night, you will be able to see the outline of the letters, but during the day, it'll be really easy to see tie. And that's kind of what you're going for there. You can print in opaque as well. Similar to me asking the painter to do a gradient. Printers don't like doing mixes of translucent and opaque. They have to print it and we have to drop it twice. So we would usually drop the opaque under the translucent and then it would weed out the parts that we don't want to be lit up. And then we would lay the translucent over the top of it. So it would be a 2-level drop. The problem with that when you get into digital prints is lamination. So then you have a laminate on top of a laminate. Those don't always play nicely, especially with the way that we have to glue these because these get glue on the back. I don't know if you're gonna, yeah, you can kind of see it up on the corner there. So we put a bead of glue on these, kind of like I was talking last week. The problem with glue and laminates is they don't play nicely together. So if you over glue it, it'll actually peel up your laminate and it'll fail the vinyl. So I know Thomas, you were asking for kind of a quote unquote defect. That would be one of the more common defects that you see. The crazy thing is because vinyl is not laminated, you don't ever have that in the corners. So glue damage looks like little tiny bubbles. It almost looks like you're having a chemical reaction and it just comes up right around the edge of the trim cap. Sometimes it'll run into the center. If you guys see anywhere it looks like it's almost like you're getting lines across it, that's actually not anything we did wrong. That's just a bad laminate. So they got a bad batch of laminate and basically it's just contracting because once it hits the elements and it gets the heat and the cold, it's going to basically just constrict the laminate. So we will see that at times as well. And then we can do a matte finish on digital prints as well. We just typically opt for a glossier finish. That's kind of our in-house standard. Does that cover everything with vinyl?
So just to clarify, when we talk about laminate, that's only on digital print or it's on standard vinyl and digital print?
Only on digital print.
Okay. And that's available in most often glossy, but if a spec calls out for it, we can get a matte finish on a laminate.
We've done matte. In my opinion, it still looks it's got a little bit more gloss to it or sheen than a standard. Like I can still tell a matte finished digital print versus a standard vinyl. They just look slightly different. If I have one, I'll take a picture and I can upload it on the notes page or whatever. But that's kind of the general difference.
Yeah, I was just going back to last week. You were talking about, DP is glossy and vinyl is, or standard vinyl would be more of a matte finish. So if a customer said, great, I want vinyl and DP, just make the DP matte, are they going to achieve what they're hoping for, or is there still going to be a bit of a shine difference?
If they did standard vinyl and matte?
I
think to someone who doesn't look at hundreds of signs a week, it would probably be fairly unrecognizable. If it's going to one of our customers that knows what they're looking at, there's definitely matte laminates that I've seen that are closer in line with a standard 3M finish than what I would say we get at this point. Yeah. So there is a slight difference. I think you have to be fairly trained to see it though.
Okay. So I'm just thinking from a sales standpoint, if someone had a bunch of letters and they're all vinyl, standard vinyl, and then they have a logo that they want DP on, would we want to offer the matte DP laminate option? And is there a lead time difference? Is there a cost difference? Or should we just tell them if they're going to do a DP logo, go DP across the whole thing?
Let's say That's where options can be the killer of the spirit, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't offer too many options. If we determine that that is a better thing for us internally, I would be more apt to make a change where if there's a combo job with standard 3M, then we would automatically make the digital print more of a matte finish. That would be a better thing for us to dictate on the driving side and be more the expert on than offer a bunch of options. Because I think the more options you offer, they're going to end up wanting something in their head that's very different than probably what reality is going to unfold. So,
Okay, so just to clarify, we would just say we'll in-house standard vinyl matte laminate on the DP, or would we say to the customer, if you want a DP logo, we're going to DP the whole thing?
probably I would opt for DPing the whole thing. So the ones that, there's a couple of things you can take into the equation. This is where the front on visual is important. If you have a circle logo and then letters that go right next to it, I would highly recommend we do a DP because you're going to see the difference in glossiness, especially during the day. And it does light slightly different at night. The colors are slightly different because you're making printing passes and you're printing onto a substrate. Where if it's more separated, so let's say you have a stack setup, the logo's at the top, the letters have some visual difference and it's below it, and then you have 3 lines of letters below it, not necessary at that point. So really a lot of it is just how close it is and how much your eye is going to catch it. In general, what I've noticed, at least from what I see when I'm a nerd out in the wild looking at signs, linear setups tend to be the ones where I see less appealing things. Stack setups, I don't see as much. I don't know if it's just how your eye looks at it, but when you're looking at a vertical plane as opposed to a horizontal plane, horizontal, that stuff stands out. Vertical, it doesn't stand out as much. And then kerning also comes into play with that. So spacing between the letters. You can have letters that are spaced that far apart. You can have letters that are spaced that far apart. If they're spaced further apart, space is your friend. So they don't have to be a perfect eye-to-eye match, where if they are right next to each other, they need to be the same thing or people are going to see it. So again, these are recommendations that we make as the expert of channel letters, where there's people that build signs, but they just don't build as many channel letters as we do. So this is where we get a lot of practice.
That's good. Okay, Blake, I think that's excellent coverage today. My takeaway is that I'm glad I walk vertically. Maybe the human eye can't detect errors where I don't match up so great. I'm glad I don't walk horizontally. So anyway,
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think let's stop there. I think that was an excellent coverage of the acrylics. I think it's excellent coverage of vinyl. And this will give us some really good questions that everyone can drop into. So you guys, if you want to just gather any questions, since we're going to end this session, drop them to an email to me. I will gather those. We'll get a Q&A going and we can get all of that out to you guys later. So Blake, thanks so much for today. Really good. Thanks, you guys.